Welcome to one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries in criminal history. This is the story of the Hinterkaifeck Murders, a case so unsettling that even a century later, it continues to haunt the darkest corners of true crime lore. In 1922, a quiet Bavarian farmhouse became the site of a brutal mass murder that claimed 6 lives, leaving behind cryptic footprints, hidden keys, and eerie rumors of someone lurking in the attic. Stay with me until the end to discover why the Hinterkaifeck murders still captivate investigators and storytellers alike. Our story takes place in the rural heartland of Bavaria, Germany, about 70 kilometers north of Munich. The farmstead, known as Hinterkaifeck, stood quietly amid open fields, with no immediate neighbors for miles. The family who lived there included the patriarch Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 children, 7-year-old Cecilia, named after her grandmother, and 2-year-old Joseph. Rounding out the household was a new maid, Maria, who had just arrived to replace a previous maid, frightened away by what she claimed were ghostly footsteps in the attic. The locals of nearby villages mostly kept to themselves, but they whispered that Andreas Gruber was a difficult man, strict, reclusive, and rumored to be at odds with his family. Little did they know that these rumors would soon fade into insignificance compared to the horrific events about to unfold. In the days leading up to the murders, Andreas told his neighbors of unsettling occurrences around Hinterkaifeck. He found footprints in the snow that led from the woods to the back of the farm, but no tracks leading away. A mysterious newspaper from Munich also appeared on the property, and one of the farm's keys went missing without explanation. When his neighbors urged him to contact the police, Andreas refused. Perhaps pride or fear of ridicule kept him silent. He had already grown used to bizarre happenings around his property, from disappearing personal items to the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the attic. Even the previous maid had quit, insisting the place was haunted. Andreas shrugged it all off, determined not to let superstition rule his household, or so he thought. Maria arrived at Hinterkaifeck on March 31st, 1922, completely unaware of the home's troubling history. In her letters, never mailed but found later, Maria expressed an immediate sense of unease. The household seemed tense, and Andreas appeared unusually watchful. That night, everything changed forever. Hours later, all contact with the Gruber-Gabriel family ceased. No one saw them at church. The children stopped attending school, and neighbors visiting the farm found it strangely occupied yet silent. Smoke rose from the chimney at odd hours. The livestock were fed, and the farm dog roamed the yard, but no human being answered the door. This eerie calm would soon be shattered by a discovery that would shake the community to its core. Several days later, on April 4th, a group of concerned townspeople, led by a neighbor named Lorenz Schlittenbauer, decided to investigate. Inside the barn, they found the bodies of Andreas, Cecilia, his wife, Victoria, and 7-year-old Cecilia. They had been brutally attacked with a mattock, a tool similar to a small pickaxe. The killers hadn't stopped there. In the living quarters, they found the new maid Maria and 2-year-old Joseph, also slain in the same grisly manner. Every victim bore lethal head wounds. But the horror didn't end with the discovery of these 6 bodies. Clues pointed to an even stranger twist. Someone had stayed at Hinterkaifeck for days after the murders, tending to the animals, eating meals, and even lighting fires in the hearth. That realization put an entire town on edge. The notion that a cold-blooded murderer could linger, unhurried and undetected, in the aftermath of a massacre was beyond comprehension. Despite the gruesome tableau, the investigation quickly fell into chaos. In 1922, Forensic science in rural Germany was rudimentary at best. Crowds of curious onlookers poured onto the farm, trampling evidence and contaminating the crime scene. Even children wandered around, picking up items. By the time authorities arrived, critical clues had been disturbed, if not outright destroyed. Still, local officials gleaned some key observations. No forced entry. The barn door and house doors showed no clear signs of being broken down. Weapon found. A mattock or similar farm tool, believed to be the murder weapon, was hidden on the property. Cash untouched. Large sums of money remained in the house, making robbery an unlikely motive. Possible intruder's footprints. Evidence suggested someone had wandered freely between house and barn for multiple days. Autopsies confirmed that the 7-year-old Cecilia had survived for several hours after the initial attack, even pulling out her own hair in agony. A tragic detail that underscored the unimaginable brutality of the crime. This also suggested the killer may have been moving about while at least one victim still clung to life. Suspicion initially fell upon Lorenz Schlittenbauer, who discovered the bodies and had once been linked romantically to Victoria. Rumors flew that Lorenz was 2-year-old Josef's father. He acted oddly at the crime scene, handling objects without showing much shock, which struck some as suspicious. Still, no hard evidence tied him to the murders. Other theories emerged. Unknown intruder. Perhaps a vagrant or drifter had hidden in the attic and, upon being discovered, killed the family. Robbery gone wrong, yet the money was left untouched. Family conflict. Andreas Gruber's rumored abuse, along with talk of incest between Andreas and Victoria, may have ignited a motive. Multiple assailants. Some believed more than one person was involved, given how systematically the victims were lured and killed. No suspect was definitively linked to the crime. Over time, persons of interest were questioned and released. Without modern forensics like DNA or fingerprint analysis, the trail soon went cold. Long before the murders, Hinterkaifeck had a reputation for being haunted. The former maid insisted she heard footsteps overhead and voices whispering in the dead of night. Locals told tales of a ghostly presence stalking the remote property, hidden in the gloom of the rafters. After the murders, these stories took on new life. The idea that the killer, or killers, might have been secretly residing in the attic, listening to every conversation, watching the family's every move, fueled nightmares. Some whispered that a malevolent spirit had driven an unknown visitor to commit unspeakable violence. Others scoffed at the notion of the supernatural, but remained unsettled by the possibility of a flesh-and-blood intruder lurking in the farmhouse for who knows how long. In 1923, the Hinterkaifeck farm was demolished. Officials claimed this was to prevent the site from becoming a grotesque spectacle, attracting morbid curiosity seekers. During demolition, rumors circulated that workers stumbled upon new clues hidden within the walls or floors, but none of it led to a breakthrough. Over the ensuing decades, journalists and amateur investigators revisited the story, though formal police efforts waned. At one point, the skulls of the victims were reportedly sent to a clairvoyant in a desperate attempt to solve the case through occult means. The war-torn events of the mid-20th century overshadowed these murders, and some crucial evidence was lost or destroyed. By the time cold case detectives took a fresh look, too many leads had disintegrated into hearsay and conflicting accounts. Despite the passage of over 100 years, the Hinterkaifeck murders still inspire a host of theories. Let's explore the most prominent. Lorenz Schlittenbauer acted alone. Motive: jealousy, paternity disputes, or family feuds. Counterpoint: no conclusive evidence, and he willingly assisted the investigation. An unknown drifter. Motive: possibly robbery or deranged compulsion to kill. Yet the killer took none of the farm's substantial funds. Some find it plausible that a transient hid in the attic to survive Bavaria's harsh winter, then snapped when discovered. A contract killing. Motive: Andreas had enemies or unsettled debts. The killer's calm behavior, staying on site, tending animals, could suggest a calculating assassin. But it's unclear why no valuables were stolen, or how the murderer managed to remain so undetected. A family member. More sensational claims. Andreas himself killed everyone during a psychotic break, or a long-lost relative sought revenge. The evidence consistently suggests an external attacker, refuting an inside job. Multiple attackers. Some argue it would be too difficult for one person to lure multiple victims into the barn. The brutality and thoroughness might indicate a group act. None of these theories have ever been definitively proven, and new revelations remain unlikely without the possibility of advanced forensic testing. As the old generation passed away, so too did any living memories that might shed light on the real killer. For the people of rural Bavaria, the tragedy shattered any illusions of pastoral safety. The notion that such gruesome violence could strike an isolated, God-fearing household left many on edge for years. Parents cautioned children never to wander near the old farm. Superstitions thrived, with stories of ghostly apparitions drifting in the fields where Hinterkaifeck once stood. The murder site became entwined with local folklore, much like a haunted house in a horror tale. Locals referred to the Hinterkaifeck maniac, weaving cautionary legends of a shadowy figure prowling the countryside, waiting for nightfall. Even today, the memory lingers in the region's collective consciousness, an unsettling reminder of how evil can hide in the most unremarkable places. One of the enduring tragedies of the Hinterkaifeck case is how poorly the crime scene was protected. Footprints were trampled, potential murder weapons handled by civilians, and police waited too long to secure the area. When the farmhouse was demolished, any lingering chance of undiscovered evidence vanished with the rubble. Modern forensics, DNA analysis, fingerprint databases, ballistic testing never had a chance to be applied. In the 1920s, criminal investigations relied on basic questioning and rudimentary evidence gathering. By the time cold case teams became interested years later, there was little left to examine. While some investigators claim to have solved the mystery behind closed doors, nothing conclusive was ever publicly revealed, and no official charges were brought against any suspect. The fascination with Hinterkaifeck transcends its time period. True crime enthusiasts, podcasters, and documentarians continue to revisit every scrap of information: old police reports, cryptic notes, testimonies from aging neighbors who once heard the rumors. The story resonates partly because it touches on fundamental human fears. What if someone is secretly watching us right now? The concept of an unseen presence in one's own home is the stuff of nightmares, made real by this century-old mystery. Various forms of media, books, theater productions, and online discussions keep the legend alive. Some accounts amplify the supernatural aspect, while others zero in on the psychological drama of the Gruber-Gabriel household. Either way, the Hinterkaifeck story remains an indelible part of true crime history. It stands among the likes of Jack the Ripper or the Zodiac Killer, unsolved, unsettling, and endlessly scrutinized. To this day, crucial questions remain unanswered. Why lure the family to the barn? Were they called there by name, or did they hear disturbing noises prompting them to investigate? Why stay on the farm afterwards? The killer exhibited a perplexing calm, cooking meals and feeding livestock with 6 bodies just steps away. Why leave valuables untouched? A random burglar would likely have taken the money. Was the motive purely personal or vengeful? Were there accomplices? One person could potentially stage the crime, but controlling 6 victims, some of whom were physically capable adults, seems daunting. Did local tensions or rumors of incest provide a motive? Could the violence have been retribution for long-standing community grievances? Each theory leads to a dead end, leaving only speculation where facts should be. That vacuum of certainty is precisely what keeps the Hinterkaifeck murders alive in the public imagination, a riddle with no neat resolution, forever beckoning the curious and the brave. Imagine a silent farm, fields cloaked by dusk, where a single light glows in the barn. The year is 1922, and though the world at large races forward, out in the Bavarian countryside, everything feels still, until that stillness is shattered by unspeakable violence. This isn't just a story of a single tragic night. It's a stark reminder that evil can strike anywhere, that our presumed sanctuaries may not be as safe as we believe, and that sometimes the dead carry their secrets with them into the dark. Nearly a century has passed, and the Hinterkaifeck farm itself no longer stands. Yet the 6 souls lost on that cold March night remain an enduring symbol of an unsolved, deeply disturbing crime. We're left with footprints in the snow leading nowhere, rumors of someone in the attic, and the chilling knowledge that the killer may have simply melted back into the surrounding countryside. No matter how many times experts attempt to piece the puzzle together, the Hinterkaifeck murders stay hidden behind closed doors of history. The footprints we follow end abruptly, leaving us in the same silence that must have hovered over that doomed farm after the final blow was struck. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of the most perplexing and haunting crimes in history. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the world's most chilling unsolved mysteries. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe it was a lone killer, a jilted lover, or something far darker lurking at Hinterkaifeck? Until next time, remember, even in the quietest corners of the world, shadows can hide unimaginable horrors.